All right,
Yeah.
hey guys, this is Sam Uria with Immigration and Travel Podcast. I'm currently recording this podcast in my car. You know, I had to make it happen somehow. I had an appointment with my very special guest today, and so here I am driving back from Los Angeles to Sacramento and making this happen. I've been so excited to hear about Diana's story because she just got back from Brazil. And so she's a person that I met in Europe. I met her in Budapest and got to spend a few days together over there with some other people, some local travelers or some local residents and other travelers, and became good friends in a short amount of time. So we've been staying in touch. So I want to introduce you guys, Diana Tran. And Diana, how are we doing today and where are you located?
I'm in San Francisco. I'm doing good. It's nice, sunny, warm out here, like 70 degrees pretty much. But it's nice to be back. It's really nice. The weather's great.
Great. I was just in San Francisco. When was it? It was weird. I was in LA. I was telling you before we started recording, I was in LA working, and then they flew me to San Francisco to cover a case, and then I got flown back to LA. Now I'm driving back from LA to Sacramento. So I was just in San Francisco as well, and it was very, very, very good weather. So
Yeah, you're all over California. The last time I've been to Sacramento was like, I can't even remember, like 3 years ago.
I always encourage people to visit, and through the app that we both know very well, Couchsurfing, I get a lot of people that text me on there and they're visiting, or they're usually just passing through Sacramento. It's never somebody that's like, hey, I'm coming to visit Sacramento. It's like, hey, I'm coming from Oregon to whatever location, or I'm doing this to this. And it's always like, yep, you're like, Sacramento's right in the middle, and you guys are just stopping out of convenience, you know? It's not a city a lot of people want to visit, but I encourage people to visit because I do think it's very fun. I think it's kind of like this hipster vibe. The downtown is beautiful to me, and having been blessed to see so many places, and maybe I'm biased because it is my United States home base.
Yeah.
But the downtown of Sacramento is different than any other one because there's not that many tall buildings, but they're tall enough to feel like a downtown city. And there's so many trees, and it's always sunny. Sacramento always has great sun. In fact, I was gone for 9 months, came back, and the first thing that I noticed was the sun hits different. I don't know if that happens to you, that when you travel, the sun, like in Cairo, Egypt, it was orange. Like in different cities, it's just got different shades. And when I came back to Sacramento, I'm like, it's so bright here. Like my eyes were, it's like I had a flash in my eyes. Has that happened to you? Like, have you noticed that?
Oh yeah. Sorry, give me 1 second. My friend is telling me. Yeah, like in Lisbon, you get all kinds of like, I mean, I was comparing the sunset in Israel, Greece, Lisbon, and here, and like the sunset, it is different depending on where you go. Like in Lisbon, it's super colorful, like all kinds of colors, as if you're on Mars or something. The sky's like pink, purple, blue, and then out here in SF, at least, like overlooking like from the Golden Gate Bridge area, the horizon is amazing. It's just like all orangey yellow, and it looks so stunning. But I know that feeling that you're talking about.
Yeah, it's just something I didn't notice before. And speaking of San Francisco, and I'll touch back on the point I was trying to make about Sacramento is that the sun hits very bright in Sacramento, and then there's so many trees downtown, and the buildings aren't that tall, so they don't really cover the sun. For example, like in San Francisco, you could be walking down any street in downtown San Francisco, and you're going to have shade and you're going to have sun, and it's two different ecosystems. Like you're going to be chilly for a little bit, and then when the sun hits your face, it's totally warm. In Sacramento, it's like the same thing, an ecosystem under the trees of downtown. So it could be like peak summer, but if you're downtown Sacramento, those trees will cover the sun well enough to where it just feels perfect. And walking around, places to park, so many different food places. I don't know. I really enjoyed downtown Sacramento. So I hope
maybe I'll come to visit sometime. Like,
I think you need to come and visit me. Yeah.
I honestly don't know, have any friends or family there. That's why there was like really no reason to come. But now I know you. So
Exactly. So I guess we're gonna have to plan that. But anyways, we were talking about your trip in Brazil, and you just got back. I don't know if it was a month or two ago, but you spent. Was it the last 2 months, or no? Was it January? Was it this year, 2022, or the end of last year?
no, it was this year. I just got back like a month and a half ago.
Okay.
Right now, I think is actually Carnival is happening as we
I
speak.
know. I heard about that.
Yeah.
So let's start on that. What I know you're not there, but how, what did people say about it? What are some stories or some people? What have people said about Carnival while you were there?
So the thing is, just to keep in mind, like Carnival is supposed to happen like I forgot what date it was, like end of February or something like that. That's official uh like week. But then because of COVID, it got pushed back to end of April this year. However, everyone still celebrated on the original date.
Oh, really? What was the original date again?
Yeah, I think it was end of February or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and like there's no parades or anything like that, but people Rio people don't give a shit about restrictions. They do what they want to do.
Yeah.
So definitely still celebrating around that time and like I think the one thing that really stood out, I don't know if this applies to all of Rio or maybe I mean apply to all of Brazil or just Rio, but everyone kisses each other, and and like it's not just a kiss on the lips. It's like especially during Carnival, if everyone's having such a good time, good vibes, like all lovey dovey, kind of like that feeling at Burning Man where everyone just loves each other.
Right.
At Carnival, it's like that feeling where okay, like I'm gonna dance around, and if I see someone attractive, I'm gonna go up to them and make out with them.
But
Straight.
is that like a general rule? Like, is it kind of like free pickings? I like to go. You just hey, that's I like that person. I'm gonna go up. Is that something everybody's doing all the time?
Yeah, a lot of people drink like a lot.
I've heard about that. No, I remember I worked. I was a bartender like 3 years ago, and I was doing like these gigs in the Bay Area. I go a lot to San Francisco and like surrounding areas, and there were some Brazilians that would work that season, and I remember just working next to them, and they just obviously a Brazilian will always sell you Brazil beautifully, and he told me about Carnival, and I remember him specifically mentioning that like, dude, like you better go with. And at the time I had a girlfriend. And he was like, you better go without a girlfriend, dude. Like, you can't avoid people kissing you. And I was like, okay, duly noted. I will make sure I go when I don't have a girlfriend if that ever happens. At the time I was so in
Yeah.
love. I was like, oh, who gives a shit? But now, who cares?
I had, you know what? I had some guy friends that just flew in for Carnival. And I believe like one of them got engaged or married. And I
Oh
felt,
my God.
yeah. And I was just like observing them. I warned them. I was like, locals here, not just guys, but women too. They're very forward. Like if they find you attractive, they will kiss you. And sometimes they don't ask for permission. It's because
Wow.
it's so normalized there. So I was just like observing them and I was seeing all these girls like, try to make their move on them. And so many times, like the guys would have to tell them like, oh, I'm married. I have a girlfriend, and then and then the locals, like the Brazilian women, they look so confused every time they got rejected. Like, what is
What do
this?
you mean you don't want to kiss me? I'm sorry. I have a wife and 5 kids. Shit. Shit.
Yeah,
You're the bad guy. You're the bad guy.
yeah. They're just. I guess they're just not used to like being denied. I'm not sure, but the expression was priceless. Oh my god, I was laughing so hard. It's definitely a culture shock though, because Americans like we like our space. Like basically a
For
kiss
sure.
there, like a makeout session, is equivalent to hugging someone you're attracted to
And you're
here.
not exaggerating, right? Because this could be a funny story, but it could be a slight exaggeration to it. So, do you really think it's like that?
I am not exaggerating. No,
Okay.
this is also from personal experience of no one like warned me, when I first, yeah, no
So
one warned
funny.
me. So it's like, it's kind of like, especially Carnival, this is how it is. Like someone will find you attractive. They'll walk over, kind of just trying to make out with you. And then afterwards, they're like, oh, what's your name? Where are you from? Oh, I've been to California. Oh, cool. Okay, bye. Have fun.
Oh my goodness, that's great. I mean,
Yeah,
I have heard Brazil is very open, sexually wise, very open, and I mean, I don't want to mention the stat, but and I don't know if it's true or not. It could be one of the higher ranked countries when it comes to like STs and stuff. But that's just like part of this is something that is just part of certain cultures, and I try to explain this to people about Colombia. That
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Colombia, the girls are more sexually tense. I don't know how to explain it. Like a girl in Colombia, and I'm not speaking for every girl. There's always going to be girls who are not like this, but girls will come out and part of their day-to-day routine is to look very good and attract a guy. That's not something you're going to see in the United States. You're going to see a girl put on leggings, a coat, go to the store, and all she's thinking about in her mind is, I'm going to go get my groceries and I got to go run these errands.
Yeah.
Colombian girls, I don't care. I'm sorry. Like I said, I might be exaggerating, may not be true to everybody. I do feel like Colombian girls, whatever they're doing and they're coming out of the house, they are coming out elegantly. They're like they dress up at least in a decent way, and they're half thinking like who's if they're single. Obviously, I'm not speaking for people who are taken, but um, they want to go out and look good and impress a guy. And sometimes you're in line and I don't know, waiting to withdraw cash from the ATM, and if a girl's in front of you, she will make these body movements which kind of signal to you like, hey, I want to talk. And it always
Oh,
happens. And it's like, you can't explain that unless you're there. And that's kind of, I'm sure how Brazil was like with people. Give me 1 second. Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, the thing with, you know what, I think, I don't, this is just my experience being there for 2 months, but I feel like Brazilians are very easygoing and they're naturally very beautiful, even though they don't try. Like some of them don't try. They're just like, everyone's just walking around in shorts and flip flops. Like in Rio, everyone wears flip flops and
Yeah, yeah.
beach attire. But even if they're not trying, they're still everyone's very attractive in Rio.
They
But
got
I
a
didn't,
mixture.
I
They
didn't,
got a, I think, sorry to interrupt. I know they have a huge mixture of like heritage, right? They got people
yeah,
from like all over Europe. They also have like
Africa,
a
yeah.
yeah, so it's like a very mixed culture. It's almost like, do you think it's a little bit like the United States? Like a lot of white complexion, darker complexion, light skin, all these different types, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could you could find like Brazilians, like sometimes they have blonde hair, blue eyes, sometimes they look like really dark chocolate skin, like super diverse, and they're all so beautiful, like incredibly naturally beautiful. And I don't know, the vibe that I got was that they're very easygoing and definitely more sexually open, and just Rio in the districts I stayed in. Also, their sexuality seems more open too. Like there was a huge LGBTQ community, and it's pretty common to hear that a lot of the women are also bisexual. So that also stood out to me, because I feel like in the States it's very black and white. It's either you're super straight, like hell no, I'm not gonna like date another guy, or a woman. Yeah, I just feel like it's more black and white here. So over there, it's definitely different. But when you were talking about in Colombia, like how the women, they would signal like body language to you to tell you they're interested. Um, I think they do that. Of course, they do that all over the world, but it wasn't very like, at least I was oblivious to that. I didn't really notice that. It's kind of like, oh, if they find you attractive, then they'll just like go for it like straight away. Like there's no beating around the bush really.
That, that is interesting. Yeah, I don't know the way it is like in a city like Medellin, and I put my dad as an example. Like my dad is 53 or something, and the guy's never been married. And to be honest, like whatever, I know his reasons. I'm not going to give his reasons. They're a bit silly as why he doesn't want marriage. But the girls in Medellin are oriented towards men like him. Men, because in Colombia, it's not like in the US where you're 18 and you can make a decent amount of money, where you can take out a girl, you can take a trip, take vacations, even if you're working a minimum wage job. In Colombia, if you're unless you try to get dirty money, you have to wait until your 30s and your 40s to be like, okay, I've been working, I've been saving up, and I have a little bit of money to be able to enjoy myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so these girls from Medellin, which I'm sure it's the same in Brazil, like the higher up the mountain you are, the higher up the favela, probably the poorer you are. So it really signifies like how poor poverty and wealth is, like the closer you are to the center of town. That's how
Mm.
Medellin is. And so he lives more in the center of town. So anytime he goes out, these girls from the favelas in Medellin, they're gonna be walking around signaling, 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 and they're
Yeah.
they're shooting for guys that are like my dad's age. And what is he supposed to do? Hey, he's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be tempted, and that's why he's been single forever. He's been living there for like 15, 20 years. So
Mm-hmm.
imagine he's 50 since he was 30, since he was around our age. He's been in Medellin, and he's like, dude, I can't get married here. You know what I mean?
I mean, at least he's honest with himself.
I
Yeah,
don't
the
think
thing with
I don't think marriage is for. Sorry, and I'll let you continue. I don't think marriage is for everybody. And he's tempted all the time, like because those girls are oriented towards that. They want to get guys his age.
yeah, yeah, he's definitely their target audience for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
like in another thing that really stood out in Brazil and the States is that, the rich people here live on the hills, and then the poor live
Great. Okay. Okay.
bottom here, because the rich people like they could pay for a view, and that's usually how it's like what you said. It's like in Colombia, like usually the favelas are in the hills, like all in the jungly hills and all that stuff, and all the rich people live closer to the beach, like down at the bottom. Um, and I was like, wow, it's like kind of like the opposite from, especially from California. But yeah, I've like I told you before, I was volunteering in the favelas, and I met some really cool people from the favelas, like cool karaoke's locals there who are very kind and nice, and I don't know. I felt like I've met people who are very trustworthy too. So I also had the opportunity to party with them in the favelas, which was actually very fascinating, and never done that before.
So you got to. What was your ways of staying in Brazil? Is it a very hostile oriented country, or were you able to stay with locals through the apps that various people use, or how was it?
I'm sorry. Say that again.
Oh, sorry, I must have cut out. I said so. How were you able to find shelter, I guess, or how did you stay in Brazil most of your journey or most of your trip? Did you mostly stay in hostels? Was there a lot of hostels available there, or did you just stay with locals through various apps that we use?
I at first I booked a hostel that had really good ratings, but I didn't realize that hostel was located in the favela. So rookie mistake. Yeah. It was fine. It was fine. Like everyone told me it's safe to walk in and out, but as a foreigner, when you see that there's like cops cars parked right at the entrance of the favela, like every day, that kind of says something, and like in my gut, like walking home at night, even though everyone was telling me, oh, this is like the safest favela here. Um, I still didn't feel quite safe, and maybe because my standards are different, but just in my gut, I didn't feel safe to be walking up the hill at like 3 a.m. in the morning after a party by myself.
Yeah.
And then, but the rest of the time, I usually had my own apartment, and I
Oh,
moved to,
nice.
Yeah, I moved to I guess the bougie neighborhood in Rio where there were more security
Yeah,
um, everywhere, and it definitely felt more safe. And yeah, it's like the bougie neighborhood. It's called Ipanema or even Leblon. Um, but yeah, I felt more comfortable there, so I moved there. But however, regardless of how bougie it is, right up the street is the favelas. So it's just that there's more cops, I think, concentrated in those areas. The
yeah.
military is everywhere too.
Okay. And I was just gonna say, for those who are listening and don't know what a favela is, which I don't expect everybody to know, there's people I'm sure that are not that. I guess to us, I think favela is a pretty common term, but a favela, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dana, it's more of a slum neighborhood that's in the hills of a semi-mountainous city, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I've learned there from locals. Like I didn't, don't quote me on this, but like the locals told me this, and also, professional tour guides told me this. But the favelas were originally created by former slaves, because they never ever received assistance from the government. And they're also, I believe, Brazil was the last country in the world to abolish slavery. So they all
That
the slave.
that I can disprove because I went to an African country that was the last country to abolish slavery. So maybe I'm wrong, they're wrong, or maybe you're wrong. But the reason I'm saying is because Mauritania, which is the one of the African countries I went to, they're
Mhm.
known for like still having slaves. Like even though it's been
Like
abolished,
legally.
no, but they're just it's you know how it is. I don't know if you visited Africa, but it's such
Yeah.
informal societies where man, it's like going backwards in time. It was a shock, but I'm sure it still happens. Some of the locals, some of them denied it. Some of them said, yeah. They're very nomadic people. They're like a lot of these African people, they're not really supposed to be living in cities. They're very nomadic. They used to live in deserts and little tribes. And the reason they kind of started saturating into cities is because there's droughts, and so then they
Mm.
can't feed themselves and start going in. I think that's what like urbanization has kind of caused is now we live in all these different cities that are so big and where most of the opportunities are kind of concentrated. But before, like people used to have very basic means of survival. Like, okay, I have my little tribe here, my little nomad town, whatever. There's only like a couple hundred people, maybe less, and they would just export whatever they'd grow, agriculture, whatever, and they export, and they didn't have to put any. They didn't have to. Um, but yeah, they
Mhm.
needed. They needed. There was a lot of slavery needed, I guess, in Mauritania, and it was the last country. But hey, I think maybe Brazil is not far behind, or maybe it is.
Yeah. Yeah, but I hear what you're saying. Like I was told this, like I did not, to be honest, I did not do my research on the exact year when it was abolished, but I was just told this by locals and also expats. That and also the favelas was created. They didn't get any help from the government until this day. The plantation was called something close to favela, and they just like created a nickname, and now it's Fella is what you call it. Um, but yeah, like like wherever I try to travel, I always try to look for volunteer opportunities there.
Okay.
And surprisingly, in Rio, it was really difficult to find volunteer positions. There wasn't like enough NGOs or something. And that really shocked me because Rio is such a massive city, and just in San Francisco alone is, I mean, I can't compare it to the US. I'm just used to going to like major international cities and being able to have so many like NGOs to work for. But literally in Rio, I think I found like four, four or five. And so I brought it up to this like a walking tour guide. I was like, hey, like I realized that like for a city this big with that much property, I'm surprised that there aren't many NGOs. And she made it known that she was like, before there were actually plenty of NGOs that offered scholarships and education and all this stuff. However, the government cut a lot of funding, and especially during the pandemic, a lot of them had to close down. So that's why you see so few. But that's definitely a sad reality because, like I said, majority of Rio is under like subsistence level, is living in poverty, and they're not getting that much help. So that makes sense that there's petty crime, like, happening, like people are constantly getting robbed and stuff.
Um,
Yeah, you
so
just build.
so you mentioned volunteering, and I know you've visited many countries, and so what kind of work have you done in other countries, volunteer wise? I guess what has been your most, because you could probably mention a lot. So I guess I'll narrow it down to like what has been your most maybe surprising. I wouldn't say surprising. Your best experience volunteering in any place in the world.
Best experience? I
Most
think
satisfying, I guess.
that's a hard question. All of them are so heartfelt. The most memorable was in Nepal, actually. I was
Oh,
living,
nice.
yeah, I was living in a rural village, and this was through Workaway. Do you know what
Uh-huh.
Workaway is? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Workaway is, and for those who don't know, Workaway is an app where it's kind of like a feed where people post jobs, and I think for the most part, whoever accepts the job takes the job. They get accepted by the petitioner, and then in exchange for whatever job they're doing for them, they get housing and food, right?
Mm-hmm. You work
Okay,
in exchange for housing and food, and sometimes I offer stipend too for the month.
nice.
Um, yeah, but I did that a lot pre-pandemic. And yeah, my most memorable place was in Nepal. And that's because it's such like I'm not sure if you've been to Nepal before, but once you fly in, like the smell is different. Like everything smells like incense and just like I still get this like nostalgic feeling when I think of Nepal. But I was living in a rural village on top of this mountain. Right next to the mountain is the Himalayas, like the Annapurna range.
Oh my
And it was
goodness.
incredibly, yeah, it was so peaceful. And also, like, that's a place where you learn not to take anything for granted. And also a place where you learn that as an American, I'm so privileged, So I like to give myself that reality check here and there because I want to be grateful for what I have now. Not many people even, like, when I was in volunteering there, um, we didn't even have proper mattress. Like, it felt like we slept on wood, just wood, and it was dead winter. So it was freezing cold. Tap water ran out all the time. They got their water from the waterfall. Like everything in the house had to be built there because there was no proper transportation to ship items up to this small village. But it was hard. It was definitely hard, but it was very
So
rewarding.
what was your job? What was your job there?
I was teaching kids about tropical diseases in English. It's like it's a private school, but it's free for the kids in that village. And I think this guy, the guy that was running it, he got nominated to speak at TEDx for what he's doing. And he's very
Nice.
passionate. He's Nepalese. He's local there. And all of the teachers are pretty much volunteers. So I got to really live like a local, teach the kids something very practical that they need to learn about. And yes, when I tell people this, a lot of travelers are like, there's like rainforest in Nepal. Like there's like there's a tropics there. I was like, yeah, like in the mountains, like how the kids get to school, they have to trek through the rainforest to get to school. And sometimes it takes like an hour and a half just to walk to school for them. So especially around like diseases, they need to know how to identify it and know what it is. So it was definitely a heartwarming and fascinating experience being there and just living a very different lifestyle, but they're all very happy people, even though they don't have much.
I almost went to Nepal, but I was deciding. I spent a lot of time in like the Middle Eastern countries, but not really. I would call Egypt and Jordan. I spent 2 months or 1 month in each, and then I was kind of, and I'd already been to Morocco, Tunisia, and I was like, I need to like get away from Arab culture. Like I feel like I really, like that's what got me excited about the trip last year was I really wanted to go to like the Arab countries like Muslim and uh, you know, just that culture intrigued me the most last year. But then I was in Egypt
Mm-hmm.
and I met a girl who was going to Iraq. And I don't know if you've noticed, but Iraq is booming right now. A lot of people are visiting Iraq. It's considered much safer. It's got Babylonia, which is like, according to them, the oldest place on earth where humanity pretty much came from, and or the oldest records of humanity
Mm-hmm.
or something like that. And I think if I would have taken that step towards Iraq, I might have just gone on to like Nepal because it wasn't Nepal is not too far off from there. I was thinking
Yeah.
Pakistan and then Nepal, and then something just said that I can't skip over Africa. You know, I went to North Africa. I need to go into like deeper Africa. So that kind of made me change my mind. At first, I was going to go to Rwanda, but then the entry requirements was so annoying. It was like test before arrival, test on arrival, quarantine 5 days, test after the quarantine. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to the other side of Africa where it's kind of like better to enter.
Yeah.
Uh, but I was seriously because there came a point where I was traveling and I was. It's kind of crazy that I was able to choose. I could look at a map and choose anywhere that I wanted to go, bar the
Mm-hmm.
ones that were super restricted. And I got to a standstill. I was like, I don't even know where to go next. Well, where am I going to go next, dude? Like, I've been traveling for like 6 months, and then I was like Nepal, and then I look at a map of Nepal, ooh, India, ooh, and I'd be like, I don't know which one. I just didn't know
Uh,
which one. So I really want Nepal. Nepal was I was telling people during my travels, I was like, they're like, where are you going next? And I'm like, I don't know yet. And it'd be like the last week that I plan on being in that place, and people would ask me, where are you going next? And I'm like, honestly, I don't know, dude. I'm waiting for one day to wake up and be like, this country's calling me. And that's kind of how I went. And
yeah.
Nepal was calling me hard. It was maybe like I was maybe like one little computer session away from just booking to Nepal. So I
Yeah.
really want to go. Point being is
Ah,
I
you
really
need
want to go.
to. There was
Yeah.
this there's this one like Nepalese food is great. I mean, it's really good. I love momos, but there's this one bomb ass donburi restaurant. It by a Japanese guy living in Kathmandu. It's so fucking good. I still remember how it tastes like till this day, and it's so hidden. I'm like, this random Japanese guy just like happens to live in Kathmandu. Not that many, you don't find many foreigners living there. Oh my God, especially like after a long hike. Oh, that was so good. I
Yeah.
highly, but I mean, I highly recommend Nepal. I'm not sure how it is now with COVID and stuff. I actually don't know any travelers who went there or even to India anytime with since like 2020. Um, so I'm not
It's
sure, but it's
have you
it's
know
definitely
have you noticed that a lot of times when you're reviewing hostels or just reviewing things in general, and a lot of the reviews are like 2019, end of 2019, beginning of
yeah.
2020, and you're like, I wonder how it is now, and like there's barely any reviews for like recent, bro.
I think in general, Asia's been like the entire continent of Asia has been very
Oh
strict when COVID started,
yeah,
so, but right now, people are starting to, I think the countries that I hear about are Bali. I mean, not Bali's not a country. Indonesia is where a lot of travelers are flocking to right now,
yeah.
and a little bit of Thailand. But that's it. Like, I don't know anywhere else where other travelers have gone within Asia.
Yeah, that's the reason I didn't book any flights directly to Asia. It's the only continent I haven't really touched.
Oh,
Bar,
you should come to my country, Vietnam.
I would love to go to. Look, if you tell me, Sam, let's meet here, let's meet there, it is very hard for me to say no.
Yeah, I told you when I first met you though, right? Like,
Yeah, I was gonna ask you to remind me what country you're from, but now that you say Vietnam, I remember us talking about it. Yeah.
I
Um,
was stuck there. So I ended up living there for like 9 months.
I know, but I wanted to talk a little bit more about Brazil because
Oh,
you were
yeah.
you were mentioning the food in Nepal. How is the food in Brazil?
It depends which part of Brazil you are. We were in. So I was in Sao Paulo, Rio, and Bahia State, um, Salvador, and the food in Rio is it's not amazing. It's it's decent. It's decent. It's not like mind blowing, you know. Especially their international food. If you're looking for like proper Asian food, that is not the spot to be. It's not bad. It's okay. But I was assuming before I even got to Rio that Rio is an international city. Everyone knows about it. So I'm assuming there's a lot of international options. I was wrong. I was definitely wrong. They have a lot of Japanese restaurants, but like not that many. It's not that good, like the other food. But in Bahia, the food's like completely different. I think it's more African influence. They use tons of spices in their food. Like you can easily find spicy food and really good sausages and just more kicks in the flavor. In Rio, it's kind of flat. Like it's like salty. It's more salty than food in California for sure. And I feel like the seasoning is consistent. It's kind of like the same throughout each plate. It's meat heavy, but you could find
Yeah.
a lot of healthy options in Rio. I was actually vegan a lot of the time when I was there, or not vegan. I'm sorry, pescatarian in Rio.
Okay.
Um,
So you obviously by having that restriction, I guess you can't really taste everything, but you said it's mostly based on meat. Yeah, I've never really had Brazilian. I don't know what their specialties are.
Steak.
Steak.
It's definitely steak. And a lot of they use a lot of plantains and fried food. But then again, there's so many healthy options in Rio that I just stuck to like fish and vegetarian, like just a lot of veggies. However, there's one cool thing, many cool things about Rio, but one of the things that I love is that during lunchtime or even dinner, there's a lot of buffet options. So you could stack your plate and they charge you by kilo how much it weighs.
Oh, nice.
Like that's something that's very common in Rio. So, there's
And
portion control there.
for an American citizen, how was the overall currency? Was it very cheap? You said in a bougie area, you said, but was it still pretty cheap to be even in the most affluent neighborhood?
No, Rio's not cheap. Rio's
Really?
no, Rio is not cheap. It is.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm talking about real estate, like renting even a small studio hostels. Like, I'm comparing it to my experience traveling to other places.
Right.
Um, along the same like economic level. But surprisingly, to rent an apartment or studio or anything, it's very expensive. Is my apartment? I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I got a pretty bougie apartment in like a bougie neighborhood. I spent, I don't even know, like 1,400, I think, 1,400, which is a lot for an area you would think there. Um,
Yeah,
Food,
that sounds like, was it an Airbnb?
yeah, and that was after negotiating with them, by the way.
Wow.
If I didn't, it would have been over $2,000 a month. So it's
Wow.
not cheap. The food is affordable though. Like drinks are very affordable. Everything else seems affordable for especially someone who comes from like one of the most expensive cities in the States, SF.
Gosh, San Francisco.
Yeah.
Like I just said, I just want. having come back to the United States, look, I needed a break. I came back. I wanted to spend time with some family. And I'm like, I just want to leave. And the only reason I want to leave, I'm like, dude, everything's so in like this past year that I was not here,
Mhm.
everything doubled almost. Like seriously, like Chipotle is like $2 more. Gas is obviously like gas is literally double.
Yeah.
Um, everything. The dollar store's not even the dollar store anymore. It's the $1.25 store. What is what happened? What what happened? I don't
Yeah.
understand. So I'm like, I need to get out again, not because I'm trying to travel, because I'm trying to spend my dollars in a lower currency.
Yeah. I know. I know. I'm definitely fun employed right now, and my pockets are hurting just coming back here.
Yeah, it's crazy how expensive San Francisco is. I mean,
Yeah.
LA too. LA, like gas
California
was
in
like
general.
California's. That's
Yeah.
why a lot of people think that you're from, and especially having traveled through Africa, people kind
Hmm.
of fanboy you because you're from California, which is not a surprise. They're like, oh, California, Los Angeles, whatever. They think you have money. They think, oh, you people used to say it straight to my face, whether it was like a tourist guide or a guy trying to sell me a package to go or whatever. He's like, hey, you brother. I'm like, hey, brother. And I tell him straight up, like, I tried every trick in the book to like wave people off from trying to negotiate. I'm like, hey, bro, I don't have any money. No, bro, I just spent last week. No hablo inglés. Oh, hablo español. I try to get it. I tried everything, and they still negotiate with me. And like, I remember every time I said I don't have any money, they're like, brother, you're traveling the world. You have money. I'm like, you don't get it, dude. I'm still poor. Like, I still have, I have a big desire to travel, but I'm not
Yeah.
rich by any means, dude. And California's expensive, dude. Like, yeah, we make dollars, but we spend dollars. And I'm like, how much does your burger cost here? He's like, oh, I get it for blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, burgers in America are $10, $12 for the patty. I'm like, oh my god,
It's
brother.
sad.
And I'm like, yes, bro. That's why I'm traveling, because I can't afford where I live,
Yeah.
dude. So
That's the
it's
truth,
like,
though. That is the truth. Like, people think you have to be rich to travel. You have to have a lot of money, and people ask me all the time because I've been full time traveling for 4 years now, like nonstop. And I haven't had my own apartment or anything, my own home for 4 years. I just been living in Airbnbs or crashing at friend's house or something.
yeah,
But I was just telling people, like, traveling is cheaper than living in New York or
yeah,
San Francisco, like way cheaper. I actually save a lot more money being on the road, to be honest.
yeah.
But
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Gas alone. I mean,
another thing, like, I don't get hassled when I travel. People leave me alone. Like, you mentioned that you got hassled by like a lot of people in Africa, like trying to make money from you, but like that doesn't happen to me that much,
wonder why.
surprisingly.
Do you just ignore them? Because a lot of people are like, dude, just don't talk back. I'm like, dude, I got raised. I can't ignore people. I have to like say something in return. I have to say something at least. Like, feeling ignored is one of the worst feelings in the world, and I don't want to be. I don't want to put myself in that guy's shoes. Like, oh, he's trying to like feed his family, and this guy's just. I'm like, at least I will explain to him why I'm not going to get a service or whatever he's trying to do.
No, I think they just don't really approach me.
You must have a really mean face when you go to these places where it's like, oh, we don't want to mess with her. I don't know.
I don't know. Like, when I went to Morocco, everyone was warning me, like, you're going to get hassled. It's so annoying. They're always in your face, especially if you're a woman traveler. Like, they're really going to be in your face. And
I
then,
just had I just had a really kind of racially profiling thought, only based on another interview that I did, where
mhm.
people in North Africa think people from China or any Asian like kind of complexion, they're there to take jobs. I'm thinking maybe
Oh,
the
really?
thought, yeah, she got expelled from Tunisia because she didn't need a visa, and like she like even showed them, she gets to the airport and she gets expelled, she gets deported. And
Oh,
literally
no.
during the verbal exchange, the guy said, "You guys are here. You Chinese people are here to take our jobs." And I was like, "Oh my god, this dude blatantly said that." So that thought just came to mind. Like, how could a girl like you, good looking girl, looks like she's traveling. How could she not get harassed? My only thought is they must think you're there to work and take their jobs.
Oh my, I never thought of that. I was just like, in Morocco, I just had a different experience. Like, no one approached me. And I mean, the only time they approached me was like, oh, you want to buy some hash? I was like, no, I don't want to buy some hash from you. I don't know you. So
they're like, the competition's here. Everyone, don't talk to her. She's just going to open a business anywhere.
I don't think I have a resting bitch face on, but like, I was shocked. I was like, everyone was warning me this shit, and it didn't happen. I was like, they just left me alone. They didn't.
I got straight up finessed romantically. No, I got finessed by a girl in Morocco. We met, beautiful girl.
Yeah.
And she started talking to me. And honestly, I don't mind sharing this, even if I share it, when I share it publicly, because it's a true story. And so I get there, and this girl, we're right outside a restaurant. We start talking. She starts talking to me. A beautiful girl. Seemed super natural, super innocent. Didn't seem like she was dressed in a way that I'd be like, this seems kind of weird. Or she could be, maybe she's a sex worker. I don't know. Sometimes you can just kind of tell from a mile away.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if Morocco had that, if it's loud, whatever. But she started talking to me like, hey, and it was like, hey, let's meet up tomorrow. Like, where are you from? But I'm like, all right, sure. Like, we'll meet up tomorrow. She calls me the next day. Her English was really good, so like communicating with her was flawless.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go and we go to a nice restaurant. She recommends a restaurant. We spent like 2 days together. And then 2 days in, she starts talking to me about like, and I don't know, is the connection so good? I heard some some glitching or something. And so about 2 days in, which, by at this point, everything seems natural. Like, oh, this girl might actually like me. Like, this girl seems really nice.
Yeah.
And about 2 days in, she's like, starts talking to me about sexual experiences. Like, I want to do this with you, and this and that and that. And I'm like, oh my God, this girl's sounded like an absolute freak. And I was like, well, I'm a guy, single guy. Like, what am I supposed to think? Like, no, thanks. No, I'm like, well, this girl is like super into. And then I kid you not, like, we hung out for another 2 days, and she kept telling me, oh, but remember, I'm a very poor girl. You need to help me out with the taxi. And the taxi was like $13 each time. And I just wasn't thinking. I was like, $13, that seems like a lot, but it's not that much. Maybe it is $13. Mm-hmm. And after like 5 days, I'd given her like $200. And I didn't even realize that I had. And I'd also spent another probably $200 going to different places, buying little things.
Yeah.
And then fourth day or so, she just makes a fucking scandal in public. I was like, hey, like, because I was being me as a guy. I went, hey, so like, I have a nice Airbnb. Like, are you finally gonna stay with me tonight? And she literally starts screaming. She's like, how could you say that to me? And it's like, hold up. Like, it wasn't even me who initiated any of that sex talk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then she just makes a scene in public and then just storms off. And then like, I'm like, calling. I'm like, yo, what happened? Like, what did I say that was so bad? She's like, yeah. And I could tell right then and there, she was making it all up. And that's when I kind of like, finally, the bubble popped in my head, like my mental block. I was like, hold up, I'm getting finessed as fuck. This girl just planned her way to like $250, $300.
Yeah.
Played it beautifully. Yeah, she knew what to say, when to say. I am not a fool, I promise you. I'm not a fool when it comes to certain things. Of course, I'm not the brightest in every aspect of life. But no, she played it beautifully. And this whole taxi talk that, I live in this part. And she showed me the map. Look, I work here and I live here. So I'm coming all the way to see you. I'm like, oh my God, you're so sweet. Like, here's the money for the cat. Here's the money.
Oh no.
Days later, I could just picture myself from a perspective outside of my body. Like her making that scene and me going like with my hands like, what happened? And what happened, Sam, was you just got finessed in Morocco for 4 days. This girl, $200 or $300 in Morocco goes a long freaking way.
Oh
Her
my
taxi probably
God.
cost $1, most likely cost $1 each way. Especially her being a local. I mean, they don't charge locals anything.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm
so imagine
sorry.
that's how bad I got finesse. It's a funny ass story. Honestly, I probably told it twice.
Yeah,
It makes
yeah.
me laugh. It's so funny.
Huh?
She's got a way. She made a way. She made a way to make money. So
Wow. Wait, have I gotten finessed by a guy?
no, because I don't think guys can wait 4 days. I don't think guys can. A
Uh,
guy, yeah,
uh,
yeah.
not me, not me. Yeah, that's crazy. I'm sorry.
Nah,
You got played by a
it's
hot
all good.
girl.
But no, but what? So Brazil. Let's keep talking about Brazil. So none of that happened. So the currency was good. The the money, like obviously the staying in that neighborhood was a little bit more expensive. But what about the rest of the stuff? It was pretty affordable. Did you shop for your own food? Or did you go out to eat every day?
Yeah, well, it was affordable for me, but you have to remember, like, I work in tech. I'm coming from San Francisco, and the prices here are ridiculous. So my standards are completely fucked when I travel. Saying like it might be, yeah, affordable for me, but like another traveler it might be outrageous. So, but okay, so the prices for food and going out and all that stuff compared to everywhere I've been in the world is decent, is not bad, it's decent.
Okay,
But
so
finding a place to live is hella expensive.
yeah, and the people that you met there, you were telling me before that they were people from a lot of parts of Brazil, not necessarily people from outside of or just world travelers. And do you think that like you could tell differences between the people from the different cities? And I know you also visited different cities. So like, how would you describe Brazil? Was each city pretty unique on its own?
You can't tell. I feel like all of Brazil, like at least like in Sao Paulo, like everywhere you go, it's so diverse. Like I people thought I was Brazilian. Yeah, because there's a massive Japanese population in Sao Paulo.
I was gonna ask you about that. So, is there really like you can tell like a lot of people have like Asian descent there?
Well, the biggest Japanese population outside of Japan is in Brazil, and that's in Sao Paulo.
That's crazy. Yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah, so I got so many questions like, "Are you Japanese?" I'm like, "No, I'm Vietnamese."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but in
That's
Rio, like, yeah, no, you don't really find any Asians there. However, like you could go to Brazil and I would think you're Brazilian, like
right.
really can't tell who's from where. Like anyone could be from Brazil. But yeah. I
Yeah.
just I just know in Florianopolis there's more light skin like Brazilians, like blonde, more European features in Florianopolis. But other than that, yeah, it's really hard to tell. Everyone's so mixed and like they all everyone like yeah, there's racism like within the system, but when I was like in Sao Paulo and you go to like the skate park or you walk around, you see different people like married, like different ethnicities married to each other, same nationality, just different backgrounds. So it was pretty common to see a Japanese guy with a Brazilian wife, and he's Brazilian too, and just like all kinds of people from different colors like hanging out a lot, which was really nice to see.
So, what would you say the vibe was like every single day, especially because I know you were there during carnival season. Was it like wake up? I don't know what your schedule for work is. I don't know if it's just appointment based or you have like an actual schedule. Would you just wake up, like go to the beach? Like what do people tend to do? I feel like when I think of Rio, I think of people hitting a soccer ball and going playing on the beach or volleyball and just spending the most of their days on the beach.
Yeah. So one thing, if you're a digital nomad like in Rio, it's going to be really hard to focus and be
I
productive.
bet. I
It's
bet.
so hard to get anything done over there. Like I'm kind of glad that end up working. I was like, I left my job. I just needed time off. But I'm
Okay.
kind of glad that I didn't work while I was in Rio because that would have felt impossible. A lot of my friends complain about it. They're like, I can't get anything done. I keep wanting to go out. Like it's really hard to balance. But day to day, for me at least, without working, was and by the way, I was managing like a group of like 20 people on WhatsApp. And when I say manage, I was coordinating a bunch of events for people daily, all the time. And these were all friends. So I was doing that. So that kind of felt like a job. But from like,
Well, how did you start doing that? I feel like you're kind of a. I mean, you definitely are. But how did you get started on like event planning? And it wasn't a job, right? It was just like it's kind of part of your nature, right?
and it's just part of my nature. I just like to, wherever I go, I always want to create like, have a friend family. I always want to hang out with the same people.
Okay.
And like I could meet them through couch surfing or through parties or through meetups. And I just like, if I like them, I invite them to this group and it just grows. And then they invite their friends. And then like daily, I'm just like, hey, there's like these 3 parties we could go to. Which one are you guys feeling? And then I'll make sure, rally everyone. And we're all going to that, or else like beach outings and stuff. But to answer your question,
Wow.
from I never woke up before 12 p.m. So then it's just hard. It's just hard. So
Nightlife like a MFer, huh?
huh?
I said nightlife like a MFer, like a
Oh my
motherfucker.
God, the nightlife is insane. But yeah, I would go to my dance class first. So I took samba. I've been dancing samba for 3 years now. Starting in
Oh,
California, but I wanted to
nice.
really, yeah, I love drumming and I love the samba dance because I don't know, it kind of it hits me like here pretty strongly. And I feel so alive when I do it. So I really spent a lot of time practicing samba with my dance teacher there in Rio. So that was like every other day. And then afterwards, and we all meet up at the beach, just tan or hang out. Like everyone is very physically active. They're either playing foot volley, which is like volleyball without using your hands. So
Oh, that's super fun. Yeah, hard. You got to be doing that every
yeah,
day to drill it in. But yeah,
yeah. But everyone does that on the beach, like kids, women, men, everyone. So and they play it with a volleyball net, you know. So
so
foot
fun.
volley is the thing there. I would play volleyball. So and we played volleyball a lot. That was pretty much like every week. And then I would just go biking in the afternoon with a friend because there's like a really long bike path around the coast, the beach. So you can take the bike everywhere. You can rent it and go. It's just another thing about Brazil is you need a social security number to do anything. A Brazilian
Really?
social security. Yeah. So what ends up happening is a lot of foreigners have to borrow someone else's social security number, or they'll have to like use their friend's parents' social security number, or someone who died, like use their security number. Yeah. It's, I don't know why it's set up to be like that, but,
You mean to like shop for things or what in general?
like if you want a SIM card, you need a Brazilian, I think it's called CPF, or renting a bike, just things you wouldn't imagine you need a social security number for. You need it in Brazil almost all the time, even sometimes to even buy tickets to a party or a concert. Um, which that was like a hassle about the system too. But yeah, like at night, like we would all go out to dinner for after the beach, and then we would, break for like 3 hours and a meet up at a party around 11 p.m. And that was like daily. So 3 a.m. in Brazil is considered early for a party. So
That's
if
yeah.
you, yeah, it's considered early. And so it was like that almost every day. And if I went out, sometimes it's really easy to lose track of time. And then suddenly you see the sunrise and you're like, oh, fuck. I'm not going to do anything tomorrow.
Right,
But
because
yeah,
you're
it's like every day there's something.
it's like a backward cycle because that happened to me Budapest. I wasn't really trying to, but I was going out, staying out till 7 in the morning, and
Mm-hmm.
I manage my company at least in Europe time and in that time zone backwards because like 8 a.m. In a few I think instances I think like before the time changed. I think it's 5 p.m. 8 a.m. was 5 p.m. there. So all day I wasn't doing shit or I was sleeping, and then I managed my company while being out in Budapest, and I'd have to stay up until 3 at least, even if I didn't go out. So I kind of combined both. If I had to take calls, I would
Oh,
take calls. If I had to send an email, I for a period of time, my phone, and I think you're the only person who agreed with me on this. A lot of times I was doing everything on my phone. I didn't even need my laptop. I was managing everything on my phone. And I was like, how is this happening? And I
yeah.
remember like see the sunrise and I'm like, I don't know if I feel irresponsible or I'm like winging it really well. Like I don't know. I don't know how to feel about myself. But Budapest gave me no option. I was going out every day. So I was like,
Yeah.
it's
Budapest is a lot cheaper than Rio, by the way. Uh,
wow. That's
yeah.
crazy. I
Budapest
love
is,
that city. Yeah, that city was amazing. I went back after you were there. I think you did too.
huh?
Said I went
Yeah,
back a few months later.
I went back too. Oh, like you, by the way, I caught COVID in Brazil, of course. Oh,
Caught COVID in Brazil. Well, I caught COVID in Spain.
I thought you caught it in Budapest.
I must have been Budapest. Oh no, you're right.
You
I
went to
caught it in.
Spain to recover.
There you go. I was flying from Spain to Peru to then go to Colombia, and then yeah, I caught COVID and I couldn't fly out of Spain, so I stayed in. Thankfully, I stayed in my cousin's place in the mountains of Catalonia, which wasn't even Barcelona. It was about 2 hours deep into the mountains. It was the
Yeah.
best quarantine ever.
Wow.
It was good. It was good. Yeah, because
Shit.
he literally lived in like he was his. It's my cousin and his roommate is a single ER doctor,
Hmm.
and so he's got a lot of money, and he kind of runs the place. It's a little town in Catalonia, so he's kind of like the ER of the town, the ER doctor of the town. And he was on vacation, so it was just my cousin and I, and then my cousin would leave, and it was just me there,
Hmm.
and it was perfect isolation, next to all the trees, next to all the mountains. Like I had a
Oh,
balcony, I had a pool.
yeah. Damn, that sounds amazing. I caught
So
I caught COVID 3 days into Brazil.
with symptoms.
Yeah, with symptoms. And then immediately I booked a 5-star hotel across the beach.
Yeah.
And I isolated myself for like 11 days, pretty much.
You know what's
Um,
funny? There's something about me being frugal, me being a cheap person that traveling makes you, count every penny.
yeah.
But then when I'm sick, I'm like, call the best fucking hotel, Ubers everywhere, bring me the best food. I don't give a shit about money anymore. I'm trying to recover.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. That's exactly how I was thinking. I was like, I want a hot tub. I want a hot tub with the jets in there. I want fucking room service so they could like give me my meal since I'm not leaving the room. Like I want
Yeah.
a massive
Yep.
TV with massive speakers, and I want to have a view of the fucking beach because I can't go to the beach. So, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I paid a fucking shit ton of money, but I was like, once I'm sick, I'm fucking splurging. I'm gonna splurge the entire time.
Nah,
But
that's
my quarantine was self isolation was legit. It was pretty awesome, minus the symptoms.
yeah. Part of the reason I came back also, and I was in Africa. I caught malaria in Africa, and I was
Oh
really,
fuck!
yeah, I
You
was
didn't take
really trying to.
you didn't take the pills.
It doesn't matter if you take the pills; are almost like a mental, what do you call it? Mental satisfaction or like mental responsibility. That like, oh, I'm doing something to at least prevent. But if they don't prevent it, mosquito comes for your ass, you're probably gonna get malaria.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, the thing about Africa is very tropical, very poor. There's not a lot of paved roads. So there's sand everywhere, playing with
Mm.
lots of sand. And I got sick. And when I got sick, I was like, yep, Airbnb, best food, best restaurants. But there came a point where I was in Africa and even the best hotel and the best food didn't feel luxurious at all. So like
Yeah.
I like seriously miss luxury. Like even though like being a frugal traveler, like you're like okay with most places, okay with whatever comes your way. I
Hmm.
literally like my Americanism kicked in. I was like, I just want to see tall skyscrapers with paved roads. I want to go in a nice car. I want to eat really good food, Chipotle, and have like all these options. I just miss it so much, and that's when I pulled the trigger. I was already sick, so I was like, I got to go take a break. And
Yeah.
yeah, the first few days in America was like driving my car, going nowhere, eating Chipotle, eating in and out.
Yeah. I went straight when I got here. I went straight to go get pho when I
Oh,
landed
I'm sure. The
after Brazil.
availability of a food here is ridiculous.
You know what? I mean, I feel like we're very privileged to come from California because the number of produce here, like the variety, and like it's so international. You have all kinds of cuisines here, and it's just so good. We're spoiled. We're definitely spoiled here for sure.
Oh,
Um,
I love this. I love this country. I love this state. I love California. Yeah, of course it's got issues. Of course it's very expensive, everything. But oh my God, like comparing lives, which I try not to, but I feel like the surge of digital media has made it worse for the rest of the world, the world that doesn't have a lot, because they can see what the outside world is now. I feel like before, I had a great, let's say me, I could have had a great life in California, and I could have had a great life in whatever rich country. And the African kid didn't know. Like he was living his own life, minding his own business. The kid in South America, he didn't have a phone. He didn't have access to anything. All he knew was his own life. But now kids go on social media and they can go see what's happening in California, what's happening in Dubai. And then you go and look at your life and you're like, what the crap? Like these guys got way more than me. So now they can compare. So that like example that I used to kind of feel good about, like, hey, look at these African kids. You like give them a ball and they're happy. Well, I don't think that's the case anymore because now they actually can compare lives, which I feel like before, if I don't know if I'm ignorant to the rest of the world,
yeah.
myself think I have a good life. But when you can actually have a phone, and it doesn't matter where you are, everybody has a phone now. You can be in the poorest neighborhood anywhere, you have a phone with some sort of access to social media. Now you can compare. So a lot of the people I stayed with in Africa, they're like, yeah, bro, they were literally like not even trying to go to work. First of all, the pay is horrible, like peanuts. Like,
Yeah.
oh, it's so bad. I felt bad. It like gave me an empty feeling when I heard how much they worked and how much they worked for.
Mm.
And then they'd be like, yeah, bro, I just want my dream is to go to California. Like they truly, and now they know what it looks like and they can compare. And I'm like, oh, I wish I could just bring everybody to this sort of opportunity. Not
Yeah.
this life, just that everybody have equal opportunity. It's so sad.
You know what though? Like when I traveled quite a bit, and also like my family, a part of my family lives in the countryside, kind of like slummy of Vietnam on this tiny island. And not just that, but I also lived in pretty rough areas while volunteering in the world. But, there's comparing it like, yeah, in the States, in California, there's shit tons of money here. There's so much money. We have everything that we need and more. But also when coming back here, you see a lot of people in bad shape. I'm talking about very bad mental state compared to like any other places that I've been in the world, and I think that there's definitely a lack of support in the system. Whereas like when I did live in these smaller villages and yeah, they didn't have money. If they're sick, they're pretty much fucked because the healthcare there is it doesn't even exist. However, they seem more at peace, and there was more of a community within their family, and like everyone lived close to each other. And they seem just more joyful, like deep inside, even though they didn't have much. And there is social media, but it's just like it's different. Like the people that I've met living in poverty, they weren't necessarily unhappy. I think if anything, they're struggling. Yeah, they're struggling to make ends meet. However, like I think the lifestyle still with being close to family and also friends, they just seem more at peace and a little bit more joyful than the people here who are making a shit ton of money, or even not, like kind of in rough shape here.
I agree. I just think that, I noticed in other countries, life is a bit more simple. Like it's just you don't have a lot of options to like search for a new thrill, and like people like us, like I'm always looking for my next thrill. But
Mhm.
to experience that next thrill, I need opportunity, I need money, I need desire. So it is an addicting game. And if there's days where I'm like, oh man, I want to do this and I don't do it, I'm a good with my mental health. I would say, there's days where like anybody, I don't feel the best, but I always consider them, well, it's normal. Like people are gonna go, these sort of things fluctuate. But for people who maybe do stay in like a lower mental state, it's probably by like the same uh, thing that I'm talking about, which is we just have really high standards here. We have great lives, and we can do so many things, and we have the opportunity to do so many things. And I feel like people feel like social pressure, and it's kind of a rat's race to do certain things, but it's not necessarily that you have to do any of them, because you don't do any of them, or you don't do what most societies do, like staying in shape or making as much money as somebody told you to make, or getting a nicer car, whatever, or not having kids. There's all these different judgments because there's so much opportunity. There's still a pattern of what success looks like here. And people don't live up to that. They're going to feel so crappy because they know they can change it, but they're not doing it. And it ultimately falls on them. While in other countries, there really is no opportunity. You just have to live a simple life.
Yeah.
And it's not like, hey, if somebody does have a better way of success, everybody's like, great, like he figured a way out of this kind of mess, I guess. But for the most part, the other people don't have that pattern of criticism because there's really no way out of there, or there's just very limited options.
Yeah, yeah. I hear you. I think I agree with you. To each their own, right? Have different experiences. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like, right now, especially during the pandemic, like coming back to California, you do see a lot of homelessness, and a lot of them are sick, like need mental, like there's something going on, like they have some kind of mental disorder that needs to get treated or something like that. And also drugs. But compared to anywhere else, I've seen it definitely more here, where the homeless people are really in bad shape, like terrible shape. And the next place would be the Philippines, and Sao Paulo, actually, in Brazil, is really not good.
Well, in terms of what, homelessness, or just poverty, or what?
Homelessness.
Really, Sao Paulo
Yeah.
is bad.
Yeah, Sao Paulo's bad.
Wow. I So where are they? Are they? Is it kind of like California? They're just tents and random places around the city or on the beach, or
No, it's just like all over the city pretty much. And a lot of locals said it's like since the pandemic, it's just been like getting worse. It's not getting better.
it's crazy how these societies get suppressed to the point where they're like you really end up on the street without food, begging. Like it's a harsh reality that we're so lucky not to be in. It's sad to hear. So I guess you really did see a lot of poverty in Brazil. Like you really felt it.
Oh yeah, you see it everywhere. You definitely see it everywhere. And another thing is I felt like here in San Francisco, a lot of people complain about homelessness because it's everywhere, and it's like there's like a lack of empathy. towards the homeless.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking it's probably because they're scared of the homeless people, because a lot of them are in bad mental state.
Yeah.
So you could catch them like maybe it's not uncommon to hear that they may attack you, or they're screaming at their hallucination, or
Yeah.
so people here are scared. Maybe because of that, they don't show any empathy towards the homeless here. Well, there is, but like not really. When I talk to people about it, they're just like, I wish, like, where are tax dollars going? Like, it's not solving the problem. Like, I want to get out of here, kind of stuff. But when I was in Rio, like, you see homeless people, and sometimes like you're eating outside, eating dinner, and sometimes like, and they're really young, they look like they're in high school, but in bad shape too. They'll just want to take food off of your plate, and if you stop them, they like get really angry at you, and you could tell they're just like so hungry. And the way I observed it, like the locals, my friends always gently talk to them and actually have a conversation with them and then give them food. And then they don't talk about it afterwards. But it's always like with some kind of like very gentle, soft conversation with the homeless person. And it's just like, it's different the way locals there deal with people, where compared to here for some apparent reason. I can't like really pinpoint why, but I'm just only guessing.
Well, very interesting. And Diana, just to finish up, I'm running out of time here. So, what would you say? I guess two questions. The first thing, what was the thing that most surprised you about Brazil? I guess from a perception from before going there, and then actually being there. Well, what do you think was your most surprising thing?
I mean, there was a few things. One is how open they are, like very open sexually. That is something that I did not get used to. And the second thing was, another thing that really surprised me was like, this is kind of sad to even talk about. But when you see, like, people get robbed on the beach all the time, and a lot of times they get beat up in front of all the beachgoers by these kids who are robbing them, like jumped. But the locals don't do anything. They just watch, and everyone just pretty much ignores and like they already accept that reality is like this. So that's the sad thing about it that I've like realized. And my friends, like travelers, were shocked. They're like, yeah, my backpack got ripped off from my back, like on the beach. A bunch of high school looking kids were like punching me, but no one did shit. Like no one. And it was like daylight.
So you really don't want to go to the beach with any belongings. Like you just have to leave everything behind. I feel much safer from the sound of it to just go to the beach and bring food and leave everything behind. Like I wouldn't bring my iPhone.
Oh no, yeah, I don't bring anything. I mean, I bring my phone because I need to get around and communicate with people, but I hide it. I always try my best to hide it. I don't really take it out at the beach either. I don't even bring a towel to the beach. Like, yeah, I just like go with what I'm wearing and then air dry. But like, especially a backpack. Like, I wouldn't bring a backpack. A lot of people do. You're just kind of at higher risk if you do. But yeah, that's the one thing that really stood out about Brazil. And the third thing, the last thing, is that the biggest lesson there was I kept hearing locals tell me, like, because I'm a dancer. I dance, and I do it every day. I've done it since I was little. So that's where I feel most myself, is when I'm dancing. And samba is one of those types of dances where I feel very much at home doing it. But at parties or at dancing events or whatsoever, the locals constantly, they keep telling me, like, you got to feel it. You got to feel it in your heart. Don't think about it. Your body has to feel it, and I kind of took that as a metaphor. Like, just for life and where I'm at in my path to like, you have to be in tune with your body and like your gut and whatever decision you're going to make, so that was what I kept hearing from locals all the time. Like, and it kind of set the path for me afterwards for this year, I think. So yeah, those are the three things that really stood out for me.
I'm sure you have more. And just to finish up, then, why do you think people should visit Brazil? I guess.
Wait, ask that again. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Oh, sorry. One of my AirPods just died. So hopefully, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I said, what is what? Why do you think people should visit Brazil? Like, let's say, like me, when I used to be able to, thankfully, you could convince me as well, I guess. So you could use me as an example. Like, I could go anywhere right now, and I'm planning my next vacation. Sell me Brazil.
I highly recommend Brazil. I was only supposed to be there for a week. It ended up being 2 months. I kept extending. It's just so easy to meet friends, and locals are so friendly, and people are just down to do anything. They're very spontaneous people, so they're more in the moment. Like, you can't really plan in advance with Brazilians. It just has to happen on the spot. And that's what makes it so much fun, because you never know how the day is going to go. One day you're like, okay, let's go to the beach. And then somehow you end up at some Brazilian funk party. And the best thing is that I'm a dancer, so I love dancing. And everyone twerks. Guys and girls.
What? Even straight guys?
Oh, yeah. All the guys know how to twerk. Oh, yeah. It's just
That's
like,
great.
I feel like it's part of the culture there. Yeah, it's just like everyone gets down so hard. And the weather was great. Like, going to the beach every day was super fun. I stayed pretty fit because I was constantly moving my body. And I felt like Brazilians in general are very physically active. You weren't planning to get in shape. It just ends up happening anyway. But yeah, the main thing for Rio is that it's just one of the most fun places I've ever been in my life. And definitely top of the charts.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like what I take away from what you said is it's hard to focus and it's fun. So and it's spontaneous. So it sounds like a place where just let go and just have fun.
Yeah. I you should go next year in January, February. Please. I think it's gonna be like a yearly thing for me.
Oh, perfect.
Thank
Yeah.
me later.
Yeah, I will. I sure will. Well, it was so nice to hear that you had a good time, and I know we can talk for hours, and we will definitely have a conversations off the record. And I just wanted to thank you for giving me the time to listen. I love doing this podcast because I'm so interested in hearing people's stories when they travel, how they travel. Everybody's got such a unique way to travel. It's crazy, and you never hear the same story.
Yeah. It's
And
amazing.
so I just wanted to say thanks for giving me the time, and I will speak to you soon.
Okay, sounds good. Bye.
Okay.